Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today I want to show you how to bushcraft a survival container. Stay tuned. If you're ever in a survival situation or you just want to have some fun and do some bushcrafting, making a container is a lot of fun to do. And there's a lot of ways to make containers. But I want to show you one way that I really like, and it's using a bit of a hollow log. And as you're walking through the woods, often you can find these, and I would advise you to cut it and let it dry if it isn't already. Just makes it a little easier to work with, and also keep in mind that it's going to shrink some if it is damp. But anyway, find you a piece of wood about like this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to cut off a section about this long. We're going to use this section right here for our survival container. So stay tuned. This log has a knot hole right here, and it is a hole that goes all the way through to the inside. So I know that this section is not going to be any good for my container because it's already got a hole in it. So using the Silky Gomboy 240, we're just going to cut it off right here and use this section right in this spot. Okay, and we'll just set this piece aside. We don't need it. And there you can see we have our small section of hollow log. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our little Gransfors Brooks wildlife hatchet, and we're just going to use it to trim off all the bark, making sure we get all that off. It comes off pretty easy once it's dried, and it's not really that big of a deal. It's pretty soft, and we can throw that aside. We don't need that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the axe, little hatchet, and I'm going to clean up the whole outside of the container, just like this. So I want to get all of this bark layer off of there and get down to a little more solid wood. That's going to lighten it, and it's also going to make it be more durable and not hold as much moisture. I'll get that done, I'll get back with you. Okay, so we got that done, and just kind of go around and round everything off, make it sure it looks nice, and get anything you might have left. And so this is what we have now. So it's kind of cleaned off, still sort of rough looking, but that's fine. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's a bushcraft project. Alright, now the next thing that we want to do is we're going to have to hollow the inside of this out better, because being a rotten piece of wood, or a dried out center rotted piece of wood anyway, it's got a lot of pith and a lot of things on the inside that we want to try to clean out. Because that's just going to give us a larger opening here, and it's also going to help us a lot with our container in the long run. But I want to show you something before we get to that, so stay tuned. Some of you have seen my tool roll, and I've updated it recently, and perhaps I'll do a video on that one of these days. But what I've added is a small 1/2-inch chisel, and then I've got this chisel here. This is an excellent chisel, of course, for working on kuksas. And then, of course, I had this already, but a hook knife. And you'll want this, all three of these, for working on this project. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this rounded chisel here, and we're going to start just cleaning out the inside very carefully, and not using a hammer, but just using pressure. And it's pretty soft inside, so this is a pretty easy thing to do. And we're just going to go down in there, and we're just going to clean this out. And we'll do that all the way around on this side, and we want to try to get all the soft stuff out. And ideally, we want to try to make this inside as round as we can, because that's going to help us later. So I'll get to work on that, and I'll clean both sides out, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Alright, so I went ahead and used the baton here. I got into some parts that was a little bit harder than others. But anyway, you can see what we have right here. Nice, good sized piece of wood now. Pretty well cleaned out on the inside. But we've still got this kind of this scallop look around the outside from our chisel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the hook knife, and we're just going to clean this out all the way around here. We're going to round this off until it's nice and smooth, so it doesn't have any of that scallop look anymore. So I'll get that done, then I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so there we have it. Nice round edges, and pretty circular, not perfect, but good enough for what we need. Alright, now we have to go find a cap to go in here, and what we're going to use is we're going to use a piece of cedar. So let's go find that. One good thing about where we live is we have plenty of cedar trees, and I cut on them all the time. Got a lot of down dead ones. Great branches, of course. Cedar is an amazing resource for just a lot of projects, and so I know where there's a big one down here. I've cut some pieces off of it already, and so let's go down there and find it and see what we can make out of it. All right, and here it is. It's right there. So that's the piece I'm looking to cut off of. So let's get with it. Okay, so I've got my piece of wood here, and putting it on here, I see that it's going to be the perfect diameter. I knew where this was, so obviously that's why I came down here to this one. So we're going to open the saw and cut off some of these little branches here that are in my way, so we can get to our piece of wood. Alright, that looks good right there. Alright, we need to cut 2 of these. I'll get back to you when that's done. Okay, so we got our 2 pieces. So we're ready to get on to the next part of the project. So we've got our 2 pieces here. And one of the things that I carry in my tool roll is a carpenter's pencil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place this over top of this wood here. And very carefully, I'm going to go inside with the pencil, and I'm going to scribe around inside and mark exactly where the edge of this is. So you want to be as precise as you can with this, and go around at least 2 or 3 times to try to make sure that you get all of that marked and marked properly, because it does make a difference. Alright, so there we have it. Got our circle scribed out. So I'll do that to both sides eventually. But what we're going to do first is we're going to set this aside, and I'm going to take my 1/2-inch chisel, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to come around here and I'm going to work on getting this outside off. And I'm just going to pry that off like that all the way around using the chisel. I'm going to follow that line, and once I get that done, I'll show you what we do on the next step. Okay, so now that we have that chiseled all the way around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the chisel and I'm going to come in at an angle like this, and I'm going to bevel it all the way around. And just take my time and go very slow. I'm not taking off great big chunks, just little bitty chunks like this. But what you can see is I'm beveling this in. So that's very important. Okay, so we've got this all trimmed and beveled around here, and then we'll take our piece of wood and let's see how it fits. So we have to turn it, see exactly where we got it in there, and that is a pretty good fit. It's going to need a little trimming around here, but that's looking real good. I like that a lot. So alright, I'll trim this down and get that a better fit so it fits flush with the edge here, and then I'll move on to the next step. So stay tuned. Alright, so now we have both of our ends cut out and recessed to fit, and it goes in and out pretty easily. And one thing that will help you when you're doing this is take a pencil your pencil you use, and mark around the edge here. Just put some graphite on there, and then as you set this down in here, you'll see that it makes little black marks around the edges, and you just simply take your knife and you trim off wherever that black is. It takes several test fittings to get that in there, to get that to fit. And it's not going to be absolutely perfect, again, because you're working with a piece of dead wood, so you're going to have a little bit of gap here and there, but generally speaking, it's going to work pretty good. The other thing that I do is I take my pencil and I make a little mark right here where it fits. So that way I know which way the lid goes on, because the lid is not perfectly round. It's irregular in shape, and it's trimmed to fit inside of the piece of wood. So that's a really good tip when you're doing this. And of course, if you don't have a pencil, you can use charcoal from your fire. That'll work just well also. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put pins in either side of this. And so what I've got here is just a piece of wood, a piece of hardwood that I split out. It is not green wood. If you use green wood, it will shrink up on you and get loose in the hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take this piece of wood here. It's a piece of walnut from just a dead walnut tree, and just a small one that died. And then I'm just going to shave this down to about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I've got that shaved down, and I put a little bit of a point on it, as you can see right there. So it kind of looks like a little bit like a pencil. And then I'm going to choose the thinnest sides here, and I'm going to use the awl and on my sog tool, and I'm going to start the hole right here in the side, and I'm going to drill that all the way in until it's all the way to the tip here. And then using my 1/4 inch gimlet, I'm going to finish drilling it out. Now the reason I'm pre-tapping it with this is because if I just try to use the gimlet, it can split this wood out because it's rather thin and it's very dry. So we're going to use this first, pre-tap it, and then I'm going to use the gimlet to finish the hole. Okay, so we've got that done, and we've got this. We're going to just stick this in here, tap it in a little bit, make sure it's in there nice and tight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the saw, and we're just going to cut this off just like this, right next to it, just like so. Let's flush, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. For the next stage of our project here in this Altoids tin, I have survival glue. I'll get it open here. All right, there it is. And I've also made several wilderness glue sticks, and I've got a video on that, and I can show you how to use it. Basically, it's a glue that the Native Americans used. It's been used for thousands of years. What I'm going to do is I'm put it here on the coals because I don't want it in the flames, and I'm going to warm it up. And then we get it warmed up, and we're going to use a stick to go ahead and put it on top of our lid and seal it up. Let's get back to you when that's warmed up. Okay, so now it's all melted. It's nice and liquid again. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of this and we're going to smear it around the inside here, and we're going to seal this up very carefully and let that harden up. We'll go all the way around this with our glue. Just roll it like this, get a little bit on the stick, come over here, and very carefully seal up all the way around those edges, just like this. And if you want to have the method of making this, the recipe, I'll make sure and put a link to it, not only in the video but in the description box down below. So I'm going to finish gluing this bottom here, and also we're going to put a little bit of glue on the pins on the side that we put in there. And then once I get that done, and I'll get back to you. Alright, so we've got the bottom done, and I went ahead and coated the entire bottom with a thin layer because this will waterproof the bottom in case I set it down and something is damp. Now, if you want to get it smooth like this, you can run it over the fire after you get it coated, after it sets a little bit. And once it gets warm, you won't make it too hot. You can take and you can use your hands very carefully and pat it down, and it will kind of smooth out on its own. Or if you're at home or you're around and you want to use a torch on it, you can do that too, and that gives it a really nice and even layer across the bottom. This might be a little bit tacky or sticky when you're done. I would recommend taking a little bit of dirt or dust or even some ashes and just lightly coat the bottom of this when you're finished, and that'll keep it from being sticky. All right, now we're going to put some on the inside because again we've got some gaps around there, and we're trying to keep this sealed off and make it a proper container. So to do that, we're going to take a little bit of our glue here and stir it up a little bit. I want to make sure it stays stirred, and we're just going to take it and we're going to put it down inside, just around the inside like so, and we're going to keep doing that until we get a nice coating. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this, I'm going to pick this pan up with the multi-tool, and we're going to very gently pour it down inside the bottom so that it fills in all the gaps and spaces. And now we have the bottom well coated on the inside and the outside. Next step is we've got to finish our lid, because obviously this way, if we put it down inside of here without a proper lid on here to pull it up, a proper handle, the lid's going to get stuck and it might be hard to get out. Now right now it's set in there in such a way, and it's adjusted so that it doesn't get pushed down real hard. And but if you jam it down in there too tight, you might not be able to pull it back out. So let's go ahead and work on getting a handle for this. So I'm down here at the base of this tree, and what I'm looking for are these small tender little roots like this that we can pull up. Now this one's a little bit small, but I'm going to keep digging around in here until I find what I'm looking for. And when we get that, I'll pull it up, and then I'll show you how to strip the bark off so that we can make a proper handle. Alright, so here we found a really nice young root. We're just going to work and pull this up until we get down to the end. Alright, right there. And that looks pretty good, and I think that'll make a good handle right there. Of course, there's always more we can pull up. Maybe this one will do better. Alright, we can see that. Yep, that one's pretty good too. Alright, so what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and just see about how long we want it. We'll try to get one without too many offshoots, and but I think that'll do really good right there. What we have here is just a broken branch. It's just something broke off on a dead cedar tree, but it's got a bunch of splits in it. Now, you can do this with a split stick, but if I can find something like this that's already made, it's a lot easier for me. What I do, just put it in the split and then pull it with both hands. Just do like this, and you can see that it's just pulling all of that outer bark and fiber off of there. And we just do that. We work our way back and forth across the whole thing. It's like this, pulling that off. Go to the other end, do the same thing. And again, if you wanted to save this, this would probably make pretty good tinder once it dried out. Alright, so now that we have our root, what we're going to do is try to find the approximate center of this. You could measure, but for what I'm going to do, I'm just going to guesstimate about where the center of this is. That looks pretty good. And I'm just going to take the awl, and I'm going to start with this, and we're going to drill all the way through this, and then we will take the gimlet and we'll go ahead and finish that out. It's a 1/4 inch gimlet, so that makes a decent sized little hole. Now that we've got our little vine here, it's all stripped and ready. Use a very thin portion of it. One way that you know that you can use this for a handle or for cordage is if you can wind it around your finger without it snapping. And you can see that this does very, very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it down through the top, just like this, and then we're going to tie just a basic knot into the bottom of this particular little piece of cordage here. And here we have our loop. You can see the little knot tied in there. I had to retie it because it did break there just a second ago, but still had plenty left. You can see what that looks like. Alright, now we put it onto our pot, making sure we know where the little mark is, and if it's down in there just like it's supposed to. And now we have a nice bushcraft container. And we can store nuts, we can store wild edibles, anything that we might want in our little shelter that we build. But this is just a really great way to make a bushcraft survival container. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can be notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.